Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video. And today I'm going to be talking about this news about WWE is going to be now inducting matches into the WWE Hall of Fame. It's going to be considered under the Immortal category. I hate this idea because there are so many great matches in WWE history that to have only one match be inducted would be a disservice to every match in WWE history, because it seems like that they're only inducting one match every year now. At least that's what the indication is. So the first match they have announced was the iconic Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret the Hitman Hart, WrestleMania 13 submission match. Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man, was the special guest referee of this match. I think it's ironic that this is the first match that they would want to induct into the Hall of Fame, because obviously it absolutely deserves it. When you think of the defining moments for Stone Cold Steve Austin, it would be this match. But again, I think, because if they're inducting this match, then that means like now we're gonna have like 10 Hall of Famers basically, because it's like we already have this whole idea where it's like if Austin is inducted into the Hall, or no, let's say Bret Hart. If Bret Hart is inducted in the Hall of Fame, because he's inducted in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler, then he was inducted a couple years ago in the Hart Foundation tag team that he did with Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Okay, so Bret Hart's already a two-time Hall of Famer. Okay, now is he a three-time Hall of Famer now? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like if you induct matches into the Hall of Fame, then that means that the wrestlers are gonna pan their Hall of Fame induction going for it. I don't like this idea. And I will say, if you're going to induct matches into the Hall of Fame, then I know this has been a conversation that a lot of people have been saying for a long time. But if you're going to induct matches in, I think it needs to be accelerated at this point. Is there needs to be an actual WWE Hall of Fame, like building. Basically, there needs to actually be a real Hall of Fame. Because inducting matches to me kind of takes away the importance of like just having a single wrestler career. And we also know that there's a timestamp for how long the speeches can be. I am kind of very interested what they're going to do now with Vince McMahon not there. Because if you remember Vince McMahon, he used to would always like come out awkwardly a lot of times and try to like stop someone from talking, or like they would have a or they would have just another wrestler come out. I remember when they did the Mr. T induction. Mr. T was going on and on and on and on, and he had a long speech or whatever, and they had to send Kane out. They had to send Kane out to stop him because the speech. Like, that's another thing I hate too about the Hall of Fame is like there should be no time limit on the speeches. Like, I know the speeches got to go like on a short amount of time, but like, when you're inducting someone for their career, there should be no time limit. I know they do a time limit, but it's no. I just think what they should do at that point is just like here, what I think they should do is the Hall of Fame ceremony shouldn't be live. Okay, well, and maybe it won't be so much now because it's on streaming too now, I guess. But like, because they used to put it on television. What they would do is they would only put certain spots like on the television version. It might be a little different now because of the streaming era of wrestling, but they would only put either two or three Hall of Famers on television for their speeches or whatever, and the rest you would have to watch on the website. What I think they should do for that type of stuff is they should just let them get the unlimited time that they want to speak, and then they edit it down after the fact. They edit the speech, for the live for like a live television. I don't know if it's still airing on USA Network now or not, but that's what they should do. Just let them speak. You got a whole you got a whole like 5-hour pay-per-view show. Just have it be live and just let them talk. It's an induction show. There should be no time limit on a speech, on a Hall of Fame speech. That's just my take on the whole Hall of Fame. And anybody can rewatch any of the Hall of Fames after the fact anyways, like any of the speeches. Still to this day, I'm sure they're like on Netflix or Peacock. But that's what I think they should do. But now, like with this match induction thing, Austin and Brett are going to be there, which means they're going to be obviously talking about their historical WrestleMania 13 match. I am very interested to see how they set this up. I wonder if Ken Shamrock is going to induct it, because Ken Shamrock was the referee of the match. A lot of people forget about this, but he was the special guest referee, which also led to Ken Shamrock joining the WWE, because he hadn't officially joined yet. He joined after WrestleMania 13 officially as someone on the roster. But Shamrock was the referee for that match. So he should, honestly, it's time for Shamrock to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. I know they were, when the new owners took over, when Endeavor officially bought WWE, they immediately gave Shamrock like a Legends deal through WWE. Like his merchandise is, I believe, on the WWE shop. I know it was on the WWE shop when they first announced it. I don't know if it's still there, but they had announced that Shamrock had a legendary deal with WWE, which I was really happy to see, because under Vince McMahon's ownership, Shamrock was basically, like, after he left the company for he was there for 3 years, or actually not even really, 2.5 really. He basically got like the short end of the stick. Like everyone tried to just ignore his existence in WWE, which kind of annoyed me, because even though Shamrock wasn't there that long, his impact with WWE was very, very impactful. I mean, he was the one who started the tap out in WWE before Shamrock. The wrestlers never tapped out. That's a fact. If you go back and watch things from before the Attitude Era, anytime a person tapped out or gave up by submission, they would nod their heads and say, "Yes, I give up." That's how they would do it. Shamrock changed the business in that sense of that wrestlers now do tap outs, which was legit, because that's how someone actually gave up before in like a real fight, is you would tap out. That's what they did, and that's where Shamrock changed the business. I think Shamrock is probably one of the most underappreciated wrestlers, because he wasn't there that long. He wasn't in WWE that long. I think Shamrock definitely deserves a Hall of Fame induction. He could have been the WWE champion. Unfortunately, his best chances to win the WWE champion was probably during that whole Montreal Screwjob thing, because there were talks about Brett dropping it to Shamrock. I know he wanted to drop it to Austin, but they weren't going to do that because they wanted Austin to win it at WrestleMania. They wanted him to win his first title at WrestleMania, because he hadn't won the WWE champion yet. And that was always the plan. But the second person was Shamrock. To drop it to Shamrock, which I don't know how long Shamrock would have been the champion for. He probably would have lost it the next month at the DX pay-per-view. That in the real timeline, Shamrock ended up he ended up versing Shawn, and it ended in a DQ or whatever because Shawn was the champion, so he didn't lose the title. But that's probably where they would have had Shamrock lose the title, and maybe Owens' return would have been later, because he interfered after that match. But that's probably what would have ended up happening. If Shamrock had gotten the title and they prevented the Montreal Screwjob from happening. But that would have been Shamrock's best chance of winning the WWE Championship, I think, because I don't think he really had any other opportunity to win it. Maybe King of the Ring after he won King of the Ring in 98, but obviously 98, they had so many guys. 98, again, I tell you right now, because people that weren't alive or were not young enough to remember it, 98, I still think, was the best year in professional wrestling history. 98 was the best year in professional wrestling history. You have WWE, you had WCW, both at the top of their game. I would say they were both at their game. WWE was at the top of their game, but WCW wasn't doing that bad either. After WrestleMania 14, man, WCW was still kicking their ass in the ratings, even after WrestleMania 14. The tides were starting to change, but WCW was still on top. They were really at the height right there in 98. Like, they were both very competitive in 98. It didn't go off the mountain until towards the end of 98 when WCW did that whole thing with Mick Foley, revealing that Mick Foley was going to win the championship. That's where it really killed them. But even in 99, even though they weren't winning in the ratings, they were still competitive at that time, at least in the beginning stages of it. It wasn't until the mid parts where stuff started to go arise. But yeah, man, I would induct Shamrock, and maybe that would be the sign, because I don't know if they're going to induct Shamrock this year into the Hall of Fame, but I think if they have Shamrock come out there and be the one who inducts this match into the Hall of Fame, maybe this would be the groundwork for Shamrock to get in next year. That's the one thing that I think might happen, because again, he's favorable with Endeavor because of UFC, his UFC ties. So I think with that, Shamrock can finally get recognized in wrestling, because truth be told, we know damn well that there are people that are in the WWE Hall of Fame that Vince McMahon put in the Hall of Fame that did not deserve to be in that Hall of Fame. All right, that really did next to nothing did nothing in terms of a career. And I don't want to discourage some of the wrestlers that are in the Hall of Fame, because obviously they were wrestlers and they worked hard and stuff like that. But in terms of accomplishments, there are certain people in that Hall of Fame right now that do not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. China, okay, still, yes, I know China's in the Hall of Fame as a DX member, but let's be real right now. China should be in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler. She was a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, a men's title, okay? Because obviously there was no Intercontinental Champion for women back then. All right, that just got created just last year, okay? So she won a men's title. And she was in consideration to winning the WWE Championship at one point. Okay, the fact that China is not in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler is fucking bullshit. It really is. All right, and the fact that Tori Wilson is in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not trying to discourage Tori Wilson, but Tori Wilson being in that Hall of Fame and China not being in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler is an absolute fucking joke. Okay, Tori Wilson never won a women's title. She never was in a pay-per-view. I shouldn't say main event, but she never headlined a pay-per-view. Okay, China did. Okay, China was in contention to possibly winning the WWE champion. That should be the end of the discussion at that point. The fact that if you would tell anybody and list accolades of China women's champion, 3-time Intercontinental champion, possibly winning the WWE heavyweight champion, men's titles, okay, and then the women's title at the end there. And you're a list down those accolades for China, and then you list the accolades that Tori Wilson did, and they ask you who's the Hall of Famer. They're gonna say China's the Hall of Famer, and their answer is gonna be wrong, because that's how stupid WWE's Hall of Fame is. Okay, Tori Wilson being in that Hall of Fame is an absolute joke. It's an absolute joke that she's in the Hall of Fame and China is not, as a single wrestler. I'm not talking about her as a DX member, because don't give me that bullshit. Do not say, oh, well, she's already a Hall of Famer. No. You don't give me that bullshit. You do not give me that bullshit, because Ric Flair's in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler and as a 4 horseman. Bret Hart is in the Hall of Fame as a tag team wrestler and a single wrestler. So don't give me that bullshit that, oh, well, she's in the Hall of Fame as a group, so that's okay. No. That's unacceptable to me. She should be in the Hall of Fame as a single wrestler, just like everybody else that's a 2-time Hall of Famer. Okay? That's how it should be. And so she should be in the Hall of Fame. And I hope one day, because I know Triple H is head of creative. Obviously, Triple H didn't induct himself into the Hall of Fame. It ended up being Endeavor and Nick Khan that made the decision for Triple H to put him in, because Triple H didn't want to put himself in the Hall of Fame. He didn't want to put himself in the Hall of Fame, obviously, because, he's head of creative. But obviously, Triple H being in the Hall of Fame had to happen, because, he had a legendary Hall of Fame career, and it's worth being in the Hall of Fame. But I understand Triple H being in a weird position where he's like head of creative, and it's like, how do I induct myself in the Hall of Fame, even though he does deserve to be in the Hall of Fame for his wrestling career. So Nick Khan decided to make the decision rather than Triple H. And that's why Triple H is being inducted, obviously. I'm glad. That's really how it should be, though, too. It should have been someone else. So I'm glad one of the higher-ups recognized the situation and was like, okay, we have to put him in. He's not going to put himself in, so we're going to have to do it for him. And overrule him. And basically overrule him. It's like, yeah, we got to do it. And Undertaker and Shawn Michaels making the surprise was great. I don't know if Triple H announced who is going to be his inductor. I'm assuming it's going to be Shawn Michaels. But wild cards for Trips would probably be Ric Flair. Ric Flair would probably be a wild card, if not Shawn Michaels. But it's going to be Shawn. I'm almost certain it's going to be Shawn. Maybe Scott, if Scott Hall had been alive, because obviously Scott Hall and him are good friends. Kevin Nash would be another wild card, I would think. But it's going to be Shawn, though. I don't think anybody doesn't suspect it isn't going to be Shawn Michaels at this point. But I was just throwing out a couple wild card ones. But it's definitely going to be Shawn. But yeah, China's got to be in. And I know Triple H at the end with the whole China thing. China's not going to get in this year. They're not going to put her in this year because Triple H is getting in. But next year we got to have a serious conversation about China getting in as a single wrestler. They got to seriously make that call at this point. If you put Tori Wilson in that Hall of Fame, that's just a joke. That is a joke. That is a joke. Tori Wilson in the Hall of Fame and not China as a single wrestler. Okay, that is an absolute joke. Okay, people who hadn't even seen China wrestle goes through her accolades and sees what Tori Wilson has had. That's a no contest brainer right there. Getting back to the topic of this video, Austin and Hart Hall of Fame. I don't know if I really like it because of the idea of that now we're going to have a debate on what matches should be in the Hall of Fame. Because there's so many matches you can induct in the Hall of Fame. I could come up with a bunch of archives. Steamboat Savage, Michaels and Shawn 25. CM Punk and Cena, obviously, Money in the Bank. I mean, that's another thing, too. People are debating on whether this is just WrestleMania. Like, that's another thing that people are debating. Is this just strictly WrestleMania matches? Or is this any match, like any match at any event? Because if it's only limited to WrestleMania matches, then we have to think about, like, just WrestleMania matches. And they obviously have a top 50 list coming out right now on YouTube for WrestleMania matches. But obviously, there's some of those that I don't agree with necessarily in terms of the order. I mean, they just had Rock's tag match be number 20 last year, which I do not agree that that is a top 20 WrestleMania match of all time. If you want to put that at 50, maybe, then maybe there's a conversation. But I would not put that. That to me is recent bias right there. That was the tag match they had last year. The tag match that The Rock had last year, they have ranked as 20th of the 50 greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. That is an absolute joke. There is no way in hell you can convince me that that's the 20th greatest match of all time. That list is a sham. When I seen that, I was like, that's a sham right there. There's no way in hell that that was a 20th best match ever at WrestleMania. I would have put that in the 40s. I would have put that match in the 40s. That to me is recent biased history right there. Like, they seen it last year. It was 45 minutes, so that means it has to be the best. One of the best, and it's not. I mean, if we're going to put tag matches in the 50 greatest matches of all time, how about actually a tag team championship match? Because I can think of a couple ones, actually, that were pretty good. You know, what about the Hardy Boy match, the TLC match with Edge and Christian and the Dudleys? You know, if we're going to put tag matches in the 50 greatest matches of all time, you know, for WrestleMania. There's a match right there. So no, I don't like that at all. But yeah, I mean, if you're gonna put matches again, what is the cutoff in terms of, is it any match in WWE history, or is it just specifically WrestleMania matches? That's something that has to be also defined in this category as well. So yeah. Anyways, that's it. That's my thoughts on the Immortal Moment category. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, rate, if I can videos or any of my other videos. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell for the latest content. Thank you. And that's about it, guys. I am the Ultimate Goku, and I'm out of here. Peace.